Hello, gentlemen, and welcome to the Mental Dojo with yours truly, Dennis Procopio. I'm a life coach for men. I own Man Up Life Coaching in San Diego, California. I work with dudes here in the United States and internationally, talking about guy stuff, guy problems, things that are on your mind, things that are on your heart. And today we're going to be talking about yet another grueling, uncomfortable, awkward bro topic. So join me inside. I promise it will not disappoint. See you there. And we are doing the Mental Dojo. It is 12:15 a.m. on a Saturday night, early Sunday morning here in San Diego, California. The year is 2020. The date is August 16th now. Today, August 15th, was 11 years that Celia and I have been together, and 10 years that we've been parents of this awesome little son that is our boy, Bennett. So, good energy, bringing some good energy to the table today. I want to talk about inspiration. First of all, we have to talk about doing your job. To talk about doing your job, we have to understand what your job is, what the rules are. Okay. To understand that, we need to know a little something or other about you. In my case, I was in an art class. I was in my 20s. I was in college in Manhattan. And I think 91, 92, somewhere in there. 90, is that right? Yeah. And I had an art teacher, gay guy, and super gay, like just gay when it was, like now it's, like when it was dangerous. It's still dangerous being gay, but I mean, the 90s were rough, and there was a lot of there was a cultural expression of violence, and I grew up that gay guys were very much bullied because we're macho and we're afraid of being regarded as gay in any way. Like the comedian Bill Burr goes into all of that. Watch him. He's. I'm not even going to go into it. He's got it all figured out. That growing up in a macho environment and then having to unlearn some of these things that you've learned, and they're passed down father to son, father to son. So, if you're a millennial, you're still going to get it from your Gen X parent, or the boomers or whatever. It's hereditary. It goes all the way back. Read Shakespeare. All the same themes are there. Read the Bible. All the same themes are there. It's kind of a thing. Men and women and society, children, society. It's patterned, right? Not to be a smartass, but look at it for what it is. And so, you grow up in this environment of hostility toward anything that's not super masculine. That's what alpha means, especially in New York. Hey, like I went to, college, high school in Long Island. And then high school, some high school in Vegas, again in the 90s. And so I got a little East Coast, West Coast kind of, sampler of those two different cultures. And on both sides, you had either jock cowboy assholes over here on the left coast, or you had, hey, fucking Vinny over here on the right coast. Hey, boom, bang, bada boom. Yo, Adrian. And I could keep going with the cultural stuff. Like we could introduce, the the racial tensions at the time, like the music. I mean, hip hop of the '90s says it all. You know, Public Enemy. Definitely. You know, the whole hip hop story of the '90s. You know, it's a cultural revolution, and now we're here. So there's this chain of hostility that happens with men. And we do. We beat ourselves up for being, quote, beta males or demonstrating beta male behavior. We're taught that you're supposed to shut up and do your job. Pardon my French, but here in the man cave, we just say it like it is. So, you're told, don't be a bitch. Don't be a punk. Don't be a pussy. Don't be a Mary. Don't be a fag. What are you, a queer? I'm like, oh, you're afraid to break your nails, afraid to get fit. You want to feel a working hand. That's a working hand. You feel those calluses. I bet yours feel like lilies. I bet they never seen a day in your life. You get manicured because you go get a mani pedi. You're putting a man in mani pedi, huh? Big tough guy. Feel that? Because that's what you're marinating in on any given Thursday. And it does. It gets into you. In the meantime, low key, these guys imitate like gay characters so well. Like, you're watching MASH and, Klinger is a dude in drag and they're like, oh, he's so funny. Watch how good I can do him or whatever. Like, all right. Like, I got a buddy who's a hockey player. I've got a client. He's a hockey player. And he says, if you've ever, if you play hockey, like really play hockey, then the difference between a hockey player and guys who play hockey is if somebody can't question your sexuality, then you're not really a hockey player. You're just a guy who plays hockey. Like guys in the shower slapping each other's junk and stuff like that. He's like, they just do like really like kind of queer shit. So you're like, all right. So we're the alpha males then. That's what's happening here in the shower right now. I'm watching you guys frolic. All right, but whatever. So at the end of the day, locker room antics, So at the end of the day, you grow up and you drop you know, stop taking shots at people who are gay. They have a different lifestyle, unless you're coming from a spiritual direction, and then that's your business. Here in Man Up Life Coaching, I personally do not judge other people's lifestyles. That's not what I do. I promote and accept that I live in a world presently in which all people express love differently, and I'm not threatened by the love part. The problem I'm having is with the other part. It's with the violent part. In an MMA environment, fantastic. You want to go in the octagon and Muay Thai each other to death. Clinch, clinch, bang, bang, boom, boom. Awesome. It's like the old days challenging a guy to a duel. I can see it. We're talking. I'm getting heated. He's getting heated. I'm looking at his throat. I know I got a knife in my pocket. He doesn't have anything, but maybe he's got a gun in his car. Are we gonna calm down here, or something crazy about to go off? Right? Look, sorry, but that's going to be there. If you two bears met each other in the wild, that would be there. A couple of bull moose run into each other up in British Columbia. That's going to be there. That's a thing. Now, as a civilized human being, how do you dial that in? You make rules, you create a code, and you live by it. Is your code for everyone? Maybe not. So if the people don't like what you're saying, what your code is, then they can have their code. Their code and our code don't work out, and we got to sit down and have a conversation, and we got to negotiate, because all men are brothers. Definitely don't want to have war amongst ourselves. But if we have to blow off some tension, sure, get in the octagon. Get in the octagon. You want to bang? Bang. Good place for that. Otherwise, you have to learn how to be diplomatic. You have to learn how to negotiate. Not only do you have to learn how to negotiate with each other, you have to learn how to negotiate with yourself. Which leads me to the story of my gay art teacher. So I personally come from a very traumatic background. I'm no stranger to hard times. So when I was in college, I recognized it as a blessing. I had spent my whole life trying to get here. I clawed, I scraped, I did everything I could to get here. And I'm in a college level art class in New York City. And every day is an opportunity to impress my teacher. And I have seen my teacher's drawings, and he can draw. Yeah, you can make fun of him because like he was a complete caricature of a flaming freaking gay guy. Like, I mean, you left out of there doing impressions of him. The guys and the girls. I mean, everybody was just. But at the same time, real talk, he could draw. And our job was to go get into that classroom, set up your little drawing situation, get your tools out, get your pads out. Okay, there's a model up on the stand. The clock is ticking. Time to, wake up, rub the crumbs out of your eyes, quit worrying about your coffee, and how cool you think you look drinking your coffee with your fingerless gloves and your stupid New York scarf while you're sitting there in your horn-rimmed glasses going, here I am in art school in New York City, me, right? Instead, you're supposed to be looking at that model and saying, okay, there's a thing in front of me, and my job is to get these implements here and to do a rendering of that thing on a page in a way that's, if not museum worthy, then at least honest. And when we say honest, it means it shows that I was present with this thing, that I shared space with this thing, that I spent time understanding. And how much time? Well, he told you. 30 minutes. You guys are going to be drawing for 30 minutes. So what's my job? My job in 30 minutes is to show that I was focused for 30 minutes. So for 30 minutes, I just went into a meditation, moving my tools around and thinking about kind of what I was doing, shading and stuff like that, but, and technique, but also just meditation, because that's what drawing always was for me. That's how I got to art school. I don't know. I think there are some people who chose art, like, oh, I think I'll be an artist or whatever. But I mean, my deal as a kid was I was an artist. Always. I always drew because I always was in a room somewhere, hiding from something. So, I mean, if you want to go deep. So, yeah, I grew up drawing as a coping mechanism for trauma. So me there in class, now I basically get to meditate for a grade in a room with like hot girls, and then there's lunchtime. So I'm like, this is win-win. And the teacher's gay, so that's good. I don't want some angry dad figure in there making it creepy and weird. Gay guy, perfect. He's, it's not a woman, so she's not going to, play soccer mom, art teacher. And, this guy's like, just a real nice guy who just wants to see people learn how to draw. And he's a real artist and he appreciates having a job as an art teacher because that's a cool thing. So this is a good relationship. All right, come on, let's get in here and let's just hang out and do drawings. And so every time I would show the drawings to this class, it'd be another one of those where, the teacher would be like, okay, well, we have another drawing from, and I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just telling my story. This is true because I'm trying to tell you about doing your job, right? So first I'm telling you about a situation where I had to do my job. And people think of doing your job as like, listen, I sorted lumber in Vermont. I have had the manliest jobs that you have not had. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're international brother, electrical workers. I don't care if you're union. Don't try to big dick me on your blue collar shit because I come from nothing. We can go there. But what I'm saying, just putting it out there. But what I'm saying is in this particular case, I was trying to get away from that, which is why I went to I went to college for art because I knew how to do art. That was my basketball scholarship. If I was 8 feet tall, I would have gone for basketball. I definitely wouldn't have gone for art. You kidding me? Here, go play a sport. It sounded awesome. But I didn't play sports because I wasn't exactly a jock as a kid. I was a fucking goofball from a trauma situation, which is why I drew. And we're back. So I'm in this situation in the art school. And I'm drawing pictures, and this guy's saying, look, I just got to tell you guys, I don't show favoritism, but you got to pay attention to Dennis. Every time he puts charcoal to the paper, he does it with intention. He showed up to draw. He's here to draw. He said, let me tell you, and I'm like, dude, I was so flattered. Oh my God, man, because that's why I mean, as a kid, that's why you draw, honestly, is for validation. Look, Mom, you love me now. I can draw. I drew you a picture. I love you. I made a heart. Look, I made you bigger than Daddy. Yeah, I put him over there. It's another conversation. But you're in this art class, and the guy's giving you validation for drawing, and you're just eating that up. Because he's a coach. It's like, what I do? He's a mentor, and he's telling you you're doing everything right. You're like, that's good to hear. Like, you wouldn't lie to me, would you? And like, no, I wouldn't, because I'm not here to lie to people, which is why I'm going to take a moment and give everybody a reality check. So he did. He stopped the class and he said, look, there are a couple of people in this class who show up and perform. He pointed me out. He pointed a couple of other people out. And they were, we were like the 3 or 4 heavy hitters in the class that just showed up and did art jobs. But he said, there are others of you who you show up and it's just, you're sort of these early, this I'm not awake yet sort of zombies who are coming in here, and you're phoning it in. You're not present with what you're doing, and it's showing. So let's talk about that. How do we change that behavior? Because if I'm here to teach you to draw, before I can teach you to draw what you see, I have to need you seeing something interesting enough that we care about sharing that image with you, that experience with you. So where are you? Because that's what we want. That's what we're here for. That's why we're giving you our audience. Like, damn. Whoa. Slow down, Jack. Don't hurt them. They're not ready. Like, that's back before reality TV shows and all that, the Gordon Ramsay's Nightmare Kitchen and all that, where they just are brutal to the, to the people on the team. It's back before all that. That's like just real, hey, you're in college in the 90s and you're there to be an artist, like shit or get off the pot. Don't show up like you see that on shows like The Voice. This is The Voice. Those guys, love those guys. And same thing there, man. They'll in a hot minute they'll say, hey, you need to realize that this is your moment. You're about to miss your moment because you're in your head about something. Whatever this song means to you, whatever reason it is that you do what you do, this is the biggest stage you're going to get to do it. So you better make us feel whatever your thing is, whatever your love is. We need to feel that now. We don't just want the info, we want the feels. And that resonates. You're like, whoa, okay, I got that, right? So that's what this teacher was trying to say to his class. He was taking it to the next level. Like, all right, you don't want to sit around blurry-eyed and drink your coffee. Fine. Let's drink coffee and have a chat. How do I motivate you? Clap, clap, clap. How do I get you into this? We're paying for a model. All right? I mix it up. I get you guys, I get you girls, I get you skinny, I get you rotund. All right? What else do I have to do? I need you here with me. I need a portfolio at the end of the year that I can say, look where they were before and look where they are now. I did that. So let's go. And then here would come the my problem is, I don't know. Just I show up in the morning and I've just been having trouble sleeping. I'm adjusting to being in New York. I'm kind of, honestly, I admit it, I'm kind of missing my family. And, and my boyfriend and I and blah, blah, blah. And somebody else would say, yeah, everything's fine with me. I have a comfortable workload. I think my problem is just some days I'm really into it. Some days I'm just lacking inspiration, and these are the kinds of stories you would get. Somebody else would say, it really depends on the subject matter. Like sometimes, it'll be a guy and he'll just be like a stick and he'll be just standing there. And I'm already more interested in female models than male models anyway, if I'm honest. Sorry. Art doesn't apologize. And take that route. So yeah, basically anything after doing your job is an excuse, and that's what this teacher John is hearing. And he says, okay, I'm going to tell you a story. Because he had a choice. His choice was to blow his cord and go full Gordon Ramsay on him. Or, what's his name? Tim Gunn, the guy on Project Runway. Brilliant coach, that guy. Brilliant master coach. Like I'm a coach, but that's a coach. I think that guy's awesome. Like that's mentorship. You work with a guy like that, seriously. So John says, that's the teacher, John. He says, okay, I understand the argument that you come to class and you're not feeling inspired. I get it. But I'd like to show you something. And I want to paint a picture of the guy. Man, he's a skinny, fat, black skinny jeans, very circa 90s, maybe some colorful socks, Doc Martens, sweater, koofy / colorful cap, freaking like Pakistani, scarf, kind of with the little glasses, the I'm an artist spectacles, wearing Converse or something. That guy, right? He's 110 pounds. I mean, like he's a little guy. He's maybe like 5'7". I don't know. I just remember him as being just a little dude, which is what made his story that much more fascinating. I'm going to tell you, New York in the 90s with Mayor Dinkins, quote, in charge, was its own thing. Generation Xers going to college in New York when Dinkins was the mayor were treated to their own special brand of what the fuck. Um, I'm from Philly. I've lived between Philly and Long Island and New York City. Um, you know, with family in Jersey, I know the drill. It wasn't a big deal for me. Coming into the city and going to college, but for some of these people, it was a real shock. The city could be a kind of a harsh thing. There was no internet. There weren't cameras everywhere. Nobody had phones. If you did have a cell phone, it was like a big, enormous brick, and it didn't do anything but make phone calls if you were lucky. And you had to keep it plugged in your car or whatever. Just ridiculous, but charming, right? So we were living an analog existence, which meant that if anything happened to you on the street, it got dealt with on the street. So being jaded in New York City was, a measure of self protection at that time. And we got, man, it was ugly for a minute. Times Square, Grand Central Station, Washington Park. There was a lot of homelessness. There was a lot of crime. There were like roving gangs. There was racial tensions. You know, I don't want to get political, but there was a lot. Even though I mentioned the mayor's name, I don't want to get political. But anyway, that was the zeitgeist. Put it that way. So this little gay guy, dressed like Michael Stipe or whatever, this little sprite carrying this enormous wind sail of a freaking portfolio. Enormous. I mean, this thing was like big. It's the kind that you have to have a handle in the middle of it so, you can actually carry it. And this little guy, had to, jury rig his own stuff just to carry his portfolio. And then his tools in a backpack. Winter, spring, summer, and fall. True. I mean, I'm telling you, like, real talk. You know, just like the New England Postal Service, like winter, what winter, what, we deliver the mail. That's what we do. You know, that's, that's, that's this little guy every day. He would get up at 5 in the morning, man. In fact, I think he was out there at 5 in the morning because he wanted to beat the rush hour traffic. So I think he was like actually like up at like 4 and out and drawing by 5 or something, but he was up early. Those streets get cold and windy. The sun's not even up. The worst of the homeless are doing the worst of whatever they're doing. It's not good. That's not a good scene. And rats and gross stuff. And the worst of last night, just bleh, yeah. And criminals, too. So you gotta watch out. So Gotham City, like totally gone bad. And this dude is out there in Times Square, in Grand Central Station. He'll come out there, he'll put a $5 bill in some homeless person's hand, and they'll wake up like, ugh. And he'll go, here, I'm going to draw you. Take this, it's $10. And I'll go, we'll go. Just hold still. Yeah. And then he'd draw him. And he'd sit there like a machine. You know, like real discipline, like martial arts level focus. Feel me? Like some real Bruce Lee shit. Feel me? Like, to hell with the matrix. I am in this moment with this object, and I have this paper and this charcoal, and the more he did, the faster he got. People might come around him, talk, nothing. Like Tiger Woods in his heyday, just him and the ball, focus. Didn't matter what was going on around him. Michael Jordan, same level of focus, just like that real, just those moments. But he'd maintain that through practice every morning for like a couple hours. And so the result was he had these huge drawings on good paper with charcoal that were, fixed with matte spray and were professionally signed. And he's just working with pencils, the kind of pencils that the lead is too soft for you to sit there and dick around with a sharpener. So he just uses a regular razor, like a razor blade. And you would watch this guy say, come over to your table, come over to where you were drawing and go, okay, well, your first problem is look at your pencils. Here, do that. And you'd watch how quickly he did it. And you'd be like, yo, you just did that like a machine. And then you'd try it and, break the pencil in half. So the guy was just in the zone just from practice, right? And you could feel it in the drawings. He wasn't going, oh, look what I have to say about this model. Look what I have to say about it. Look what I have to say about the poverty of the world. He's just a camera. Technically he's thinking about things like varying line weight, and, balancing lights and darks and shading and composition and placement on the page and, the elements of design, because again, he's so used to, doing this, that those are sort of second nature. He's on autopilot. So the guy's just boom, 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 boom. And he's trying to tell this classroom full of kids, I do this every day. I take off Sunday. I do this 6 days a week. And I come in here and I teach and I deal with this faculty drama on the back end, because there's always got to be some bullshit. And the world, because, we're dealing with COVID. He was dealing with AIDS and, gay hate. And if you think you were having trouble legalizing pot these days, I promise that was a conversation the 90s was in. So this dude is saying, come to class, man up, and do your job. That's what he's saying. More than that, he's saying, if there's something distracting you, you better find out what that is. And you'd better remove it or get it gone. Because if you're here to do a job, well, it's showtime. Do your job. A janitor does not show up and say, oh, I'm not really inspired to mop this floor. I don't know. This isn't really the kind of mop that I prefer to work with. This is linoleum. Yeah, I really actually rather work on marble floors. Come on, man. Do your job. If you're an artist, then get your prima donna ass out of bed. Get your tools of your trade. If it's cold outside, then dress for it and go do your job. Unless you work on a product that doesn't require you to leave your home. And then in that case, make a pot of coffee, put on the radio, you know, get up, maybe do a little exercise, take a shower, come out, freshen up, and let's do your job. Get, you know, get ready, focus, let's go. I'm not inspired. Make it a habit. If you make it a habit, it doesn't matter if you're inspired. And if you should happen to become inspired along the way, that's fantastic. But that's not a prerequisite. That was this guy's point. And I have to say, it was really one of the most profound moments for me of realization that, yeah, I don't actually think of myself as an artist. I think of myself as somebody doing this thing that I've always done that other people call art. I'm just doing what I do. So whatever it is you do, if you're doing the wrong thing, that's another conversation. We just had a session about that. I had a session, the one just before this, with a couple of good guys who are actually in the Man Up Life Coaching culture. One's a fire paramedic, the other's a Harvard graduated chemist. They're both in their early 30s. And we're talking about loving what you do and the difference between loving your job or not, and loving your work culture or not. And how there's a challenge there to decide if you should stay or go based on, the trouble you might find fitting into your job culture, and how it might be a cold, rude awakening that you were disillusioned in what you thought you were coming into is actually something different. And seeing if there are ways that you can reconcile yourself to that culture. And if not, then having an honest conversation with yourself about moving in another direction without feeling like a failure. And so that was a good conversation. We talked about that last night. But here tonight, we get to the story of talking about whatever it is you happen to be doing. Whether your job is to be a janitor, because that's how you're paying your bills right now, or your job, is to, sort lumber, pick them off and put them in the cart and push them around. If your job is to work as an essential worker, and when you're there, you just have to both be focused and you have to be on, so, you get your scrubs on and you put on your game face and you do what you got to do. No matter what your job is, you put it on your schedule. You look at how much of your schedule it occupies. You ask yourself if you accept your job taking that much of your schedule. If you don't, well, then you're going to need a bigger picture. But for right now, whatever your situation is, if you're in a job and you have it on your schedule and you say, okay, this is a good, work-life balance, sort of compromise for now, and then I'll improve it later. All right, well, then that's a commitment you made, right? So it's not perfectly optimal, but you're going to leverage this for the next thing. Okay, so it's not perfect, but you're here now. So you portion that out, you distribute it into actionable packets. You put those on your calendar. You say, here's my itinerary. So you make a plan. And then you execute that plan. Which means when the alarm goes off, you get up. Which means you know what time you need to be there and you need to be on, and you make sure you're there. You have a good idea of what you're going to do, but you're prepared to improvise if somebody throws you a curveball. You have all of the tools you need. And when they say 3, 2, 1 action and it's showtime, you do your job. And when the bell rings and it's time to take a break, you take a break, you go somewhere, you breathe. If maybe you have a little snack, you hydrate, you focus. If you're a people person, maybe you go chat, but probably isolate. Come back to work, do your job, and then when that bell goes off, okay, you're done. And for as mundane and robotic as that sounds, like I don't want to be an automaton, I want to be a person. I don't just want to be I've got bad news. Okay, you're part of a bigger system. Okay, so be realistic, understand what your job is, put it on your calendar, do it. And if you don't like it, don't live in denial. Make a plan and we'll get you to the next thing. But for right now, man up and do your job. If inspiration happens to hit along the way, that's what this teacher said. He said, look, if you happen to get inspired somewhere along the way, that's fantastic. He's like, there's sometimes I'm drawing and I'm just like, I don't like anything about this. I don't like the paper bag. That's going to be a big challenge, but I'm not going to walk around looking for the perfect situation. I'm going to pick a person, I'm going to put money in their hand, and I'm going to start drawing. And if I like it, great. And if I don't, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm just telling a story. And the better my technical skills are, the easier it'll be for me to tell that story, because the story tells itself. Dude, man, that's what's up. Understand what your job is. Break it down into quantifiable parts. Put your job on your calendar. Then execute. If you're having trouble because you lack motivation, stop judgmental self-talk and replace it with validating self-talk. Also, remove yourself from people whose energy is not especially validating. And if you can't, then, man up. Water off a duck's back. You're there to draw that homeless person. Just whatever. Do your job. Do your job. Do your job. And like I said, when you're a straight guy who's kind of a tough guy in New York City in the 90s with this sort of hood tough guy background, and you get into a class and you hear a little freaking gay dude in a wool knit cap daddy a room full of people and then pull out this big ass portfolio and go, boom, here's who I am. It makes you go, oh shit, and never want to be on the bottom of that pile. So if you're looking for inspiration, hopefully the story will either inspire you through comedy or shame, but one way or another will inspire you. If the inspiration's not there, cool story. Man up and go do your job. And if you're having trouble, it's probably because you lack motivation, which means you're probably receiving more invalidation than validation. So if you're looking for validation from external sources, Remember, validation has to come from within. So start validating yourself and others and meditating a lot more. And if you need help, bum, 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 I know a guy. And if it's not me, then pick another coach. But yeah, get help. Don't be a tough guy. It's okay to ask for directions. All right. On that note, I'm going to see you. I hope this helped. Later. Well, guys, thanks for stopping by. It's time to shut down the mental dojo, throw the chains on the doors, lock the padlock, and get the hell out of here. But before I do that, would you do me a favor and hit like? I would appreciate that. And also, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, if you're feeling what I'm doing here, if you're smelling what I'm stepping in, go ahead and hit subscribe so that we can do this again, because the man cave just isn't the same when you're not here, man. And I mean that. Thanks for coming by. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.